School District is pulling library books off of the shelves, and some board members say they want to burn them.
Parents and school officials banning books at an unprecedented rate.
We have never seen hate more mainstreamed. We have to do more to fight against these ideologies.
Saturday's tragic shooting just the latest in a string of violence.
Hate crimes have surged, a reminder that there is still a lot of work ahead.
These moments of tragedy are a call to action.
The Holocaust started with words, and we know what can happen when hatred and bigotry go unchecked. So we all have a social responsibility to educate people about what can happen, because it keeps happening again and again.
Thank you. That was a very sobering reminder of the urgency for tonight's event and the vital, vital need for Holocaust education. Good evening. I am Melissa Rivers, and I am honored to MC the Holocaust Museum LA's gala for the 6th time. Yeah. Y'all are like, please find someone else. Tonight's honorees represent 3 different generations who are passionately dedicated to Holocaust education and commemoration. Kelly Goldberg honors the legacies of her grandparents. Tom Teicholz stewards his parents' memories, and David and Sheryl Wiener remind us to never forget the experiences of David and his family. Holocaust Museum LA is also proud to recognize Mike Medavoy, Eric Esrailian, and Terry George with the Social Impact Storytelling Award for their film, The Promise. Their film propelled the US government's recognition of the Armenian Genocide. See, educating, easy for me to say tonight, that really rattled me. Educating about the history of genocides is critical to empowering the next generation to stand up against hate. I'd now like to introduce the chair of the Holocaust Museum, Guy Lipa, and my very good friend, the museum's CEO, Beth Keene.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight, both in the theater and watching the live stream. Out of a continued abundance of caution for the health of our local community of Holocaust survivors, this evening's in-person event is a bit smaller than years past. But just as our museum is growing in the next year, so will this event, so stay tuned. I want to thank all of you for generously supporting the mission of our founding survivors to educate, commemorate, and inspire. Your engagement and partnership enable our incredible museum to thrive. Special thanks to our board of directors and honorary directors for your tireless commitment. Rabbi David Barron and board chair Brian Weinstock of Temple of the Arts for hosting us in this beautiful theater. Joy Sterling and Iron Horse Vineyards for the wine donation. And to our wonderful MC, Melissa Rivers. It is my honor to recognize the elected officials, diplomats, and partners with us tonight. Marla Abrams, U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. Jeff Abrams, ADL Los Angeles. Felice Axelrod, Bloomberg Philanthropies. Los Angeles City Controller Ron Galprin. Asher Gellis, JQ International. Los Angeles City Council Member Paul Koretz, LAUSD Board Member Nick Melvoin, Joanna Mendelson, Jewish Federation, Greater Los Angeles, Jonathan Ornstein, JCC Krakow, Consul General of Austria, Dr. Michael Postel, Consul General of Germany, Stefan Schneider, Dr. Kori Street, USC Shoah Foundation, and former Los Angeles County Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky. We have 18 of our beloved Holocaust survivors in the room with us and a dozen more watching on live stream. Please stand or raise a hand so we may thank you all for your dignity, resilience, and courage in sharing your stories. You are the voices for the 6 million who don't have a voice. We also remember the survivors in our community who have left us this year and extend our deepest condolences to their families and loved ones. I'd like to ask you all to join me in a brief moment of silence to remember those who have passed and acknowledge the survivors and victims of human rights violations and identity-based violence around the globe. May their memories be a blessing. I became involved with Holocaust Museum LA about a decade ago in honor of my grandparents who were survivors. But it was not until the birth of my son Oliver in 2020 that I truly comprehended the critical importance of the museum's work. I realized that by the time Oliver is old enough to have a meaningful conversation about the Holocaust, there might not be any firsthand witnesses left to tell their stories. As founding survivor Jonah Goldrich said, we are fighting against forgetting. In just the last few weeks, we have seen billboards around the museum vandalized with vile anti-Semitic messages and leaflets depicting horrific anti-Semitic tropes left on hundreds of cars. We've had a celebrity tweet his 30 million followers a desire to commit violence against the entire Jewish people with virtually no consequences. Let that sink in for a minute. Ye, aka Kanye West, has twice as many Twitter followers as all of the Jews on earth. We've had a former president overtly stereotype all American Jews with barely an outcry from anybody outside of the Jewish community. What we do at Holocaust Museum LA is more vital than ever, as systemic anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hate is getting further entrenched into our public discourse. To those who are continuing to spew hate, we have a message for you. You will not discourage us from our mission to share the lessons of the Holocaust, to commemorate those who were murdered, to educate all who will listen and learn, including future generations who can inspire a more dignified and humane world. At Holocaust Museum LA, our North Star guiding light is to inspire humanity through truth, and our message is making an impact. On Monday, our CEO, Beth Keane, was on CNN discussing the erosion of public discourse and the importance of Holocaust education to understand how words can turn into violence and the destruction of democratic ideals. This is why I'm so proud to work closely with our museum staff, dedicated volunteers, and incredible docents who teach every day about the lessons and continued relevance of the Holocaust, empowering students and visitors to speak out and stand up against anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hatred in all of its destructive forms. And again, I thank all of you in attendance for your continued support. We could not do this without you.
Well said, Guy. As you saw in the opening video, we're feeling a great sense of urgency in the work that we're doing at the museum every day. And as the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, I feel a personal sense of responsibility to preserve the memories of survivors, carry forward their important messages, and stop history from repeating itself. From public programs like our signature Building Bridges series that bring together diverse communities for conversations about working toward common social justice goals, to engaging exhibits that explore what it means to be a refugee fleeing identity-based discrimination and violence, to student tours and creative educational programming where the next generation finds mutual hope with survivors, Holocaust Museum LA is truly making an impact. After participating in one of our programs, 96% of students agreed that young people should learn about the Holocaust to stop something like it from happening again. That is something to celebrate. 86% said they would say or do something if they heard or saw someone getting bullied. Our students enter the museum as bystanders and leave as upstanders. We're excited to announce that we received $1 million for our student tour program from the Jack and Goldie Nomberg Foundation on behalf of Sandy Kanengeiser and her family. Sandy's parents were Holocaust survivors and beloved members of our museum community. Transformational gifts like these and every dollar raised tonight enable our museum to continue teaching the next generation how the Holocaust is relevant to today's social justice issues, as well as what's happening in their own communities. And all of our honorees personify our mission of inspiring humanity through truth.
Please join me now in learning about our first honoree of the evening, Tom Teicholz, who's continuing the legacies of his parents, who were both survivors by stepping into the role as torchbearer. Tom's father was a resistance leader who helped to save Jewish lives after the war. His mother had been an actress in Hungary. Tom is an award-winning journalist and author who has written extensively about the Holocaust and depictions of the Holocaust in film. He also spearheads our museum's annual Teicholz Holocaust Remembrance film series. Please turn your attention to the screens.
My parents' Holocaust experience was before I was born. They were now living in a new country, trying to learn the language, make a living. They wanted me to have a life without the worries and burdens of what they went through. So they didn't really talk about it that much. The first time I began to really hear about my father's experience was when he started to speak at high schools and colleges, and I would sit in the back of the classroom, and then I would finally hear his story. My father grew up in a city called Lviv. It's now in Ukraine. In 1941, the Germans came in, took it over, created a ghetto, and then in 1942, he was able to escape the ghetto, but his parents and his brothers and sisters and their families were all executed. He began to organize and prepare a resistance. He was in charge of a unit of 120 to 300 young people who were forging papers, dressing up as Nazis, and taking Jewish prisoners out of prisons, blowing up bridges, smuggling people across the borders. At the end of the war, he went to Vienna, where he became the self-appointed representative of the Jewish people in Austria and was given the Rothschild Hospital. And between 1945 and 1952, they took care of over 250,000 Jewish lives. I approached the Holocaust Museum LA about creating a film series of films about the Holocaust. My goals for the series are at the same time modest and immense. I hope that watching these films does lead to a greater knowledge, greater education, and a greater consciousness. I think about how we're going to lose the first generation of Holocaust survivors and how we're going to continue beyond them. But I think we have to also acknowledge that the second generation's getting on in years, and we're already losing some of them. And one of the things about the second generation is that we're also the generation that got to know these survivors, to know personally the incredible scholars and historians, survivors of the Warsaw Ghetto and their accounts. Those films, which we show as part of this film series, are part of the ongoing, expanding mission of Holocaust remembrance. Anti-Semitism is the biggest issue facing us today. And there's a part of me that's glad my parents aren't around to see it, because my father would not have believed it's possible that people would be marching in Charlottesville with torches saying Jews will not replace us, and that there would be graffiti in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills, and that Jewish patrons would be attacked at a restaurant. I mean, they wouldn't have imagined it's possible, and I wouldn't have imagined it was possible, but it is so. A line has to be drawn in the sand, and we have to speak up, and we have to try and do things to stop this. And so that's why I think Holocaust education is important.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person tonight. It feels a little bit like Wilshire Boulevard Temple night because, of course, our own Beth Keane, and who does so much amazing work for the museum and the community, and, of course, our honorees. So I want to begin by congratulating Sheryl and David first on your award. Mazel tov to you. And now it's my honor to actually present the Legacy Award to my dear friend, Tom Teicholz. I can't think of a better name for an award to be given to Tom than the Legacy Award, because Tom is doing everything he can and has done everything he could for decades to leave a legacy of the best of Judaism and the Jewish people. And in this case, being honored for the Holocaust Remembrance film series seems to me to be so important as we are ever more a visual culture. I think, Tom, I know you understand the power of storytelling in words and storytelling in images, and you've brought that to Holocaust Remembrance, and the entire community is indebted to you for that. You are an amazing person. You are a Luftmensch. You are an elevated human being. You are a good friend. You're creative, brilliant, and every fiber of your being is devoted to the essence of what it means to be a Jew. I'm so proud to be your rabbi. I'm so proud to be your friend. I congratulate you, Amy and Tasha also. And Tom, it is my honor to present to you the Legacy Award. Mazel tov, my friend.
Wow. I wish Steve were here in person. I would thank him. And I wish my parents were here in person, because if they heard Rabbi Leder, my father would have been so proud, and my mother would have been laughing her head off, saying, "Where'd you find a rabbi who'd say that about you?" And I would have said to my mom, "Mom, I know people." And because I know people, a lot of people I have to thank. I first of all want to thank Beth Keane, who is the most optimistic, positive leader with the greatest vision for this institution. Every interaction with her is a pleasure. That is a rare thing. And Beth does a great, and her vision for this museum is so great and so expansive. Really, I urge you all to get more and more involved, because she's already doing great things. She's going to do even more great things. I also need to thank Samara Huttman, who was the prior executive director, who first invited the Teicholz Holocaust Remembrance film series to have a home at the museum, and Randy Schoenberg, who first invited me to visit the museum and get involved. I'm receiving this award as a member of the second generation, and as such, it's really, the second generation is a very extraordinary generation in many ways. First of all, we are the children of the 6 million who survived, not the 6 million who were murdered. Our birth, the children of the survivors, are in of itself a victory, a slap in the face, an answer to the Germans and Nazis and their collaborators who thought that Jews would no longer exist and there would be no more Jewish children. So it's an extraordinary thing, and I have always had that sense. Let me share with you very quickly a little detail about how I came into this earth and how that brings me to this podium tonight. When my mother was pregnant, the OBGYN she selected in Manhattan was a Park Avenue physician who was quite well known. She was the first woman to be allowed to work on the delivery and labor service at Mount Sinai Hospital. She was also a Hungarian Jew who was arrested in Hungary and sent to Auschwitz, where Dr. Joseph Mengele, the angel of death, assigned her to be a gynecologist in the women's barracks, which she did without antibiotics or anesthetics. And at night, she performed secret abortions because to be pregnant at Auschwitz meant certain death, and to be pregnant at Auschwitz meant that you were a candidate for one of Mengele's twisted experiments. So she performed abortions secretly at Auschwitz. And when the war was over, she decided that she wanted to spend her life bringing children into this world. And she did so in New York, and I'm one of the children that she brought into this world. So it's probably not a surprise that I would end up being involved with a Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles and create a Holocaust film series, because clearly it has touched me since the moment of my birth. But that is my story. And what I want to say to all of you and all of you who are watching, who I want to thank, and all my nieces and nephews who are watching, and all my friends' kids, and to my wife and daughter, is that you are each extraordinary, and you have each within yourself the ability to play a part. Some people can write a check, but if I'm getting this award, it's because I had an idea to do a film series and did everything I could to make it happen. Every organization, including this one, is looking for their next ice bucket challenge. If you are a great accountant, they need you to look at their books. If you are a great creative person, or even someone who loves stand-up comedy, they need you to do an evening of stand-up comedy as a benefit for this organization or the organization of your choice. And the only thing that I have to say, the only downside that I want to warn you about, and I just, before I do this, because if I don't do this, I know it's bad, I do need to thank my wife and daughter. They are the reason that I'm able to do any of this. My wife, Amy Rappaport, allows me to be me, which is not as easy as it sounds. When on a Friday night she says, "What are we doing tonight?" And I say, "Well, I don't know about you, but I'm watching 2 Holocaust documentaries." She says, "Okay." And when I say, "I just got invited on a trip to Kazakhstan," she goes, "Have a great time." Not everyone would do that. And my daughter, Natasha, inspires me all the time to try new things, to do better, and to do things that will make her proud. And I hope I've done that this evening. So the last thing that I did want to say was that the one danger of being involved in charity is that you might find yourself one day standing on such a podium in front of such an audience with an award in your hands. And if you do, I've got you covered. There are only 6 words that you need to say before you leave, and you'll be good. And those 6 words are, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, hey, everybody, it's Governor Gavin Newsom, and thank you for the privilege and opportunity to join many other voices in saying a few words. I just want to express gratitude, gratitude to each and every one of you, not only for joining here tonight for the Holocaust Museum LA's 14th Annual Gala, but everything you've done to make this gala a success and made it possible. For good reason, I express gratitude because, once again, we find ourselves in a moment where hate is once again all too present in our public discourse, and where national surveys and lived realities indicate a shocking decline in the awareness, particularly of young people, about the Holocaust and other acts of genocide. But this isn't how things have to be, and this isn't how they should be. And that's why California's not just waking up to this challenge. Last year, we were really proud, with so many of you that were responsible for this, to announce the Council on Holocaust and Genocide Education, to begin anew to provide young people with the tools to recognize and respond to anti-Semitism and bigotry. We were able to secure millions and millions of dollars with the extraordinary leadership of so many, again, assembled here this evening in the budget to ensure the future generations of Californians never forget our past. That funding will support Holocaust and genocide education for the Holocaust Museum LA, for the Tauber Holocaust Library in the Bay Area, and of course, the Museum of Tolerance for a new exhibit. So excited about the new exhibit focused on anti-Semitism. This work, though, is far from done. And obviously, by definition, we know there's much more work to do, and there's so much more to learn. And so we're here tonight. We're here tonight to, recognize that with humility, but also recognize the progress that we've made on that front, and to honor some extraordinary leaders in this effort. Kelly Goldberg, Tom Teicholz, and Sheryl, of course, and David Wiener. Thank you for all of your extraordinary leadership, your stories, your work. They'll never be forgotten. And again, to all of you, thank you, sincerely, thank you all for being here tonight.
The Promise. It's a film directed and co-written by Terry George, produced by Mike Medavoy and Eric Esrailian. It is about a love triangle, sounds good already, between an Armenian medical student, an American journalist, and an Armenian-born woman who was raised in France. The story is set before and during the Armenian Genocide. Let's take a look.
Always remember, God has given you this mission. May He bless and protect you.
The dynamite is weeping. Be careful.
Thank you.
This film opens just prior to World War I.
You're going to become a doctor?
Yes, it's my passion. Christopher Myers.
Chris is a star reporter for the Associated Press. A toast to old friends and you.
I told the story through the perspective of a love triangle.
You make me feel I've come home.
Because I wanted to show how ordinary people, when challenged, find greatness through their reaction to these catastrophic circumstances.
Oh my God, what was that?
If you're engaged in the dilemma between Mikhail and Chris and Anna, these are emotions that people can identify with. And then as the genocide unfolds, they can see the effect on their lives.
It's very dangerous for Armenians right now. I want to get you out of here.
If it's not safe for me, then it's not safe for any of my people.
The story exemplifies the callousness, the crassness, the hardness of the Turkish position against the Armenian people.
Minister, you are using this so-called relocation as a cover for the systematic extermination of the Armenian people.
If you don't learn from your history, you're destined to repeat it.
These things keep happening over and over and over again, every day in the same part of the world, with people fleeing for their lives, families asking the world to help, and the world standing aloof.
Armenians are a tumor in our midst.
You know, you've always got to look for the truth and to remember it for that reason, that you don't want it to happen again.
We cannot be here. We must leave.
No one here is safe. Don't you see what's happening?
We've got to have a real social impact with this film.
I made the promise.
I would absolutely believe that there's an internal promise that they've made to their ancestors, not to forget.
It's vital that people understand how these Armenian refugees managed to survive, how many of them died, how some of them escaped.
Anna.
Despite the attempt to wipe them out, they continued to thrive and build and recreate the Armenian nation.
We will build a future together. I promise.
Please join me now in welcoming producers Mike Medavoy, Eric Esrailian, as well as Interim Executive Director of the USC Shoah Foundation, Dr. Kori Street. Dr. Street, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you, Melissa. Wow, isn't that an amazing film? If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. And Eric and Mike, it's so great to be here with you tonight to honor you. So, you know, Eric, you've spoken so eloquently about why this movie, why this story. Can you tell us a little bit about what made this so important for you?
First of all, thank you to the Holocaust Museum LA. Thank you to Kori and Shoah Foundation. Thank you to my brother Mike, who's a partner and friend. And I want to thank, first of all, Kirk Kerkorian for basically having the initiative and the dedication and the generosity to finance this film. It was his idea. It wouldn't happen without him. He wanted the Armenian Genocide to be recognized by the United States of America. The film was released in 2017, and the Senate and the basically House of Representatives recognized the genocide in 2019, and the President Biden acknowledged the Armenian Genocide in 2021. So all of that came together because of Kirk, and you know, I really can never thank him enough for that. I also want to thank my dear friend and sister, Patty Glazer, who's in the audience, who is also an executive producer on the film, but a real mentor and champion of this film, mentor to me and champion. You know, I think the reality is that our stories are shared, you know, between Holocaust survivors, Armenian Genocide survivors. I grew up with this story in my household because my great-grandparents were genocide survivors. And again, thanks to the initiative and generosity of Kirk, we thought about how could we share this story with the world in a way that's more timeless. We were inspired by the amazing films about the Holocaust and the legacy that they've left. And you know, we're so touched by so many of these stories, so that was the initiative.
Amazing. And Mike, I mean, you've got this amazing career where you've found stories of impact. Why was this story important for you to be part of?
Well, first of all, the opportunity to do it came as a result of Kirk first, and then my brother here. You know, I've always wanted to do stories that really depict, you know, humanity. And in this case, you know, it's depicting humanity at its worst. I mean, you know, I'm a second generation or third generation survivor, Jewish survivor from Shanghai. My father was born in Russia and my mother in Manchuria. And they had these two kids, and you know, I was lucky enough to survive. I remember as a child going to school, and the Japanese were pretty dastardly to the Chinese, and seeing a bird cage with a chopped off Chinese head in it. You know, that reminded me that I have to see the world, you know, change or else. And I've been given the opportunity to do that through, you know, 320 movies. So I'm really, really proud to have been a part of this one.
Wow. It's such an amazing story. I think we've been so honored, Eric, thanks to you, to do work with this film and to really, think forward for how it can continue to have impact. So, why is it so important to use these films, to use these compelling stories to have an impact? And, maybe you can say a little bit, both of you, about how we can keep the promise.
Well, I think, first of all, again, museums like Holocaust Museum LA continue to share the courage and bravery, not only of the survivors and their families, but the dangers of anti-Semitism and basically hatred towards individual groups, people in all sorts of categories that, kind of remind us that man's inhumanity to man is one of the biggest dangers that we face on this planet. So I think that telling these types of stories, I remember one time when we were doing Press for the Promise, there was kind of a denialist person who said, how long is it going to take, or when are you going to stop talking about these stories? And we said never. And I have a very dear friend of mine who's a childhood friend, Rabbi Josh Kalev, one of my best friends, exactly. So Rabbi, and now in Manhattan Beach, he can't be here tonight. But when we were little kids, we used to talk about this all the time, the relationships between Jews and Armenians, the similarities, and the fact that if we don't tell these stories, it will be forgotten. And we see it in this day and age with anti-Semitism, again, throughout the world. So I feel like, and I was moved to hear about this film series that the museum puts on. I think it's important to, of course, we have books and we have lectures and we have a lot of shared testimony and recorded testimony thanks to Shoah, but I think it's important to tell these stories in film as well to kind of inspire people to remember, who came before us and their bravery.
Mm-hmm. In truth, actually, if not now, then when? We're living in probably the most difficult time that I can remember. And, I was a history major, so I've kind of seen the whole changes that have taken place. But I'm frankly scared at this point for the world, not just for myself. I'm older, but I've seen a generation that's come up. I mean, I went through World War II, the Vietnam War, when I was in the Army. It's actually terrible what's going on. And if we don't do something about it, if you don't get up in the morning and think about somebody else, it was a plaque that I saw when I was working at a children's camp in South America, in Chile. And the plaque said, think of the other person first. And I've never forgotten that. At any rate, I ask you all to, participate in the changes that are going on in the world and see if you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Last question before we get to the reason you're here and we give you an honor. What did you learn from making this film?
Well, one thing I learned is how similar we all are, and so many groups around the world have dealt with injustice and hatred, and the reality is that we're much more similar than we are different. And by having dialogue and sharing stories, I think that we can kind of move people and get them to think about, as you said, think about the other person. For those of you who are unaware right now, Armenians are facing a real existential threat at the hands of Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan has invaded the internationally recognized borders of Armenia, and they've also started an ethnic cleansing process of historic homeland called Nagorno-Karabakh, or Armenians we call it Artsakh. And so I encourage you to please read about it and see, it's the equivalent of people trying to say that, Jews and Germans were fighting, when in reality there's a plan for extermination. And I think that's happening before our eyes, but it's kind of shifted into the background. So for me, I've learned that we have to just keep telling stories and engaging with amazing people like yourselves in this audience and in this museum, and we can never stop doing it.
What about you, Mike? What did you learn?
Well, you know, I love telling stories. I mean, that's how I got into the film business.
He's the best, by the way.
What's that?
He's the best.
Well, I think, you know, telling this story and the choice of Terry was as a result of him seeing the same thing we were seeing. And there's something that I know quite well, and that is that these stories will be there long after I'm gone. And that is why I tell the story.
Well, we are so glad that you do. We are so glad that you've made this film. I thank you for sharing your experiences and working on creating The Promise, showing us how compelling storytelling can be combined with social impact advocacy and effective lobbying to really make waves, to have impact, to make change, to change the narrative and really highlight the truth. So I'm so honored, and thank you, Beth, for inviting me. On behalf of Holocaust Museum LA, it's my privilege to present to each of you and to Terry George, who wasn't able to join us tonight, the inaugural Social Impact Storytelling Award in recognition of your tireless commitment to educating the public about genocide and hate and to prevent future atrocities. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you to Terry, who can't make it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to step up. We're just going to step up to the front.
Okay.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Don't leave yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go. Going back. Okay. Mike, Eric, and Kori, thank you so much. That was truly a fascinating conversation. And just so everyone knows, Beth is here accepting for Terry George, who was not able to make it this evening. So, gentlemen, ladies, thank you so much again. Good job. Thank you. So good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
No problem. I like that they're thanking me like I have anything to do with them getting the award. Oh, you're welcome. Our next honoree is deeply committed to educating the next generation. Growing up, Kelly Goldberg's family belonged to a tight-knit Jewish community in Belgium, where anti-Semitism eventually forced most members of their community to leave. When Kelly, the granddaughter of 4 Holocaust survivors, moved to Los Angeles, she discovered Holocaust Museum LA, ready for this, while walking her dog in Pan Pacific Park. At the museum, Kelly shares her knowledge and experiences to further Holocaust education. She serves on the museum's board of directors and 3G8 at HMLA board and volunteers as a docent. Let's meet Kelly.
I always knew my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My grandfather on my mother's side, he previously had a wife and a 5-year-old son. And upon arrival at Auschwitz, they went immediately to the gas chambers, whereas he was sent to do forced labor. My grandma on my mom's side, she was very open and to talk about her experiences in the different camps, whereas my dad's mom, she cried at the first thought of the Holocaust. I only found out recently from my mother that my grandpa, who lost his wife and his 5-year-old son, had a photo, and it's a photo that I keep very close to my heart. He actually had this photo on his bedside table his whole life. When he went to Auschwitz, he was only called by his number, which was 135432, which when you add these numbers up, it comes to 18, which means life. That means he was already destined to survive. And not only survive, to thrive. There's definitely some epigenetic trauma that's passed on because of it. I grew up in Antwerp, Belgium, and it was a very small Jewish community that consisted mostly of Holocaust survivors and their descendants. Growing up in Antwerp, I experienced a lot of anti-Semitism. I came to the museum for a public tour, and right after the tour, I heard Avraham Perlmutter who's a survivor, I heard him speak. And I got so inspired by it that I knew I wanted to be involved with the museum. I'm a docent. I give tours to students coming from mostly underfunded schools who have never heard about the Holocaust before. The first question that I always ask students when I start the tour is, has anyone heard of the word Holocaust before? And almost every time, no one knows. And that's when I know this is my chance and this is my opportunity to educate these people and become excited to do that. Unfortunately, today, there aren't so many survivors left. And that's why it's even more important for people like me, who are grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, to keep our grandparents' legacies alive and keep educating the next generations. As a gay, Jewish, immigrant woman, I think it's incredibly important to treat people with respect. I always tell the students, treat everyone around you with respect. Your family, your classmates, your teachers, strangers, everyone around you, to make sure that another Holocaust doesn't happen and that there's no continued hate anywhere in the world. I am so grateful for being honored by Holocaust Museum LA because I have seen the impact it has on everyone coming to the museum. I'm accepting this award on behalf of my family and my grandparents, those who survived and those who didn't. Thank you.
That was amazing. Kelly wishes she could be here tonight, but she is up late watching from Israel. Thank you again, Kelly. I don't know where the camera is, right there, for helping to shape the future of Holocaust education. I'd like to now welcome a very special young woman to tell us in her own words about Holocaust Museum LA and how it's made an impact in her life. Please welcome Rachel Miyamoto, a senior from Sunny Hills High School in Fullerton.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I want to tell you about my experience interning at the Holocaust Museum LA this summer. Elie Wiesel said, "Whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness." Until I completed my internship, I never would have fathomed how much these words would impact me. In my sophomore year, my class was assigned to read the Wiesel novel Night and then write an essay for a Holocaust essay contest. Despite my fruitless efforts to win the competition, I felt empowered. Listening to survivor stories of Bergen-Belsen and Auschwitz compelled me to take action. How could I just sit here and not do something about this horrific history? I continued to research more about the Holocaust. From learning about the Einsatzgruppen to the Kindertransport, I knew that I needed to learn as much as I could and eventually teach others about it as well. My growing interest in history also made me want to learn more about my family's history, especially both of my grandmother's experiences. On my father's side, I listened to stories of surviving the Pearl Harbor attack. I saw the fear in my grandmother's eyes as she recanted how her mother told her to act as if she had left her heritage behind forever. From hiding all Japanese belongings to no longer speaking the language, my grandmother had to appear as if they had no ties to the country. On my mother's side, when my grandmother was 5, she was forced into a Japanese internment camp. When telling her story, she recalls not receiving enough food, having all belongings taken, living in dirty and cramped conditions, and feeling like a prisoner. Even after the war, she felt as if she still experienced discrimination from others in East LA. This goes to show how impactful nationwide fear can spread. Despite the war being over, Japanese hate still persevered. Hearing the stories from my grandparents and from Holocaust survivors, I started to see the connections, the hatred, the discrimination, and the forced movement. Although my family's experiences cannot compare to the atrocities of the Holocaust, the similarities between the two inspired me to apply to the museum's internship. Even though my mom was afraid of me taking a 90-minute commute on 3 different forms of public transportation, I convinced her that this experience would be incredibly enriching, where I would gain independence and learn invaluable lessons. I indeed discovered so much about the Holocaust, history, and life in general. A once-in-a-lifetime experience, I finally got to meet survivors in person and hear their remarkable stories firsthand. I was also given the opportunity to educate others of my grandmother's experience in an internment camp. Holocaust Museum LA is such a rich resource, from the incredibly knowledgeable staff and docents to the huge collection of artifacts and to the powerful dimensions and testimony exhibit that will for sure educate others forever. This internship was so incredibly rewarding, educational, and inspiring, as I feel now that I can speak out against hate and anti-Semitism. I think one of the goals of my generation is to keep history alive, and one thing I can do to mitigate genocides in the future is to never let the Holocaust be forgotten. I think this applies to the quote I stated earlier, where whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness. After my experiences listening to the survivors, I feel like a witness, and that it is my duty to express the survivor stories along with my own. Thank you.
Wasn't she so eloquent? Rachel, thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time, really the worst time of the night. The reason we are all here, it is the moment that everybody dreads when they come to these kinds of events. You all know what it is. This is where we're gonna, shake you down for some money. Which, by the way, I have to comment, this is my 6th year. It has never been so quiet in the room. I'm used to all of you eating and stealing food from each other and getting into fistfights over who's taking the centerpiece home. So I appreciate it. This is a whole new thing for me. So education is our greatest catalyst for change, and I am about to be joined by the museum's Chief Advancement Officer, Omar Sharif Jr. His name might sound familiar. Omar is the grandson of award-winning actor Omar Sharif on his father's side, and the grandson of Holocaust survivors on his mother's side. So please welcome Omar.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Omar.
Yes, I'm Omar Sharif's grandson, and for me that means one thing, and that's a lifetime of feeling inadequate. Honestly, Melissa, you can't imagine the pressure and the weight of expectation of being related to someone so famous.
You have I don't know how you do it.
Oh. Well, we should start a support group.
There's not enough support groups in LA.
Well, I think we're onto something
We
here.
are.
We digress,
Yes,
though.
we do.
Holocaust Museum LA annually serves 30,000 students with tours and creative educational programming, both on-site and online. In a typical year, 99% of student visitors are not Jewish, and 80% come from underserved communities. Admission is always free for students and youth 17 and under. But most importantly, we also provide bus transportation grants for Title I and under-resourced schools, where field trips would otherwise be totally cost-prohibitive. Look, I know all of you tonight, here and online, watching us at home, and I'm looking at you right in the camera right now. You've already generously purchased tickets and packages for this evening's gala, but I'm asking you to find it in your hearts to just dig a little bit deeper. As a result of the continued pandemic, supply chain issues, decreased availability of bus drivers, and rapidly rising inflation, the average bus transportation cost for a field trip to the museum has increased by 67%. This school year, it now costs $1,000 for round-trip bus transportation from greater Los Angeles area schools. So, who can help us provide more buses to take more students on field trips to LA Holocaust Museum?
Okay, we're gonna do something a little bit different to get everybody warmed up for giving tonight. Everybody ready to work with me? Okay, everyone raise your right hand. Lefties, go for the left. Everybody, what, people don't have hands? Everyone. Thank you so much, congratulations, you've all just pledged. See how painless we made it? Take those hands that are up in the air. Now stick your hand in your pocket, get out the phone. This is so painless. On the screen, you are gonna see a number to text to make a donation. It is so easy. Simply text HMLA to 76278. Okay, and you've got to follow the steps to make a pledge or a payment. So this is what your money's gonna get. $5,000 will bring 300 students to Holocaust Museum LA for a docent-led, inquiry-based, customized tour. $2,500 will provide bus transportation for 60 students to visit from San Diego area schools. $1,000 will provide bus transportation for students from schools in LA County. With free admission, free bus transportation, this is most likely the only field trip these students will be able to take this year. Okay, we're still getting less. This cannot overwhelm everybody. $500 supports one classroom of students.
And every little bit helps. Every single dollar donation, both in the room and online tonight, counts. So if you didn't hear a level you're comfortable with, we will take it no matter what. Thank you again to everyone who made a pledge or a donation. Holocaust Museum LA is proud to offer free education for students, and it wouldn't be possible without the support of our generous community here tonight. Hate is taught, but so is kindness, tolerance, empathy, and treating people with respect. We invite you to bring your children, grandchildren, and loved ones to our museum. Our new family tour is a great resource for the whole family. Thank you again.
See how painless I made this? Let's donate.
With increasing anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hatred, the need for Holocaust education is greater than ever. I was honored to participate when Holocaust Museum LA asked me to narrate their new family audio tour to help young children understand the Holocaust in a simple yet direct way. The tour is also great for the whole family to navigate conversations about Holocaust history, family heritage, and the importance of being an upstander. Numbers like 6 million and 11 million can be impossible to grasp. It is stories of personal struggle, which we then imagine multiplied by millions, that can really make the impact of the Holocaust, as well as its lessons for today, so relevant. The family tour focuses on specific exhibits and their stories in each of the museum's galleries, including a scale model of the Sobibor death camp, Nazi propaganda books aimed to indoctrinate children, and the yellow stars Jews were forced to wear as badges of identification during the Holocaust. What's my family's story? My grandparents fled the pogroms leading up to the Holocaust and lost most of their family in the Shoah. My mother's mother lost half of her 12 siblings and arrived at Ellis Island an orphan, alone until she was finally reunited with some of her siblings. I grew up knowing we don't talk about what happened. My grandmother never really recovered from what she saw. My children have known about the Holocaust as part of our history for their entire lives, both as part of our direct Jewish history and part of the history of a world still in need of repair. I started with facts about the history of that era. The facts speak for themselves. Education about the Holocaust, and especially age-appropriate education for children who are Jewish or not, impacted by the Holocaust in their family or not, is critical for our culture and our world. The lessons of history can teach us so much about human nature, politics, and our obligation to never forget, so it does not happen again to anyone, anywhere.
I'd now like to invite Los Angeles City Council member Paul Koretz to welcome back to Holocaust Museum LA's CEO Beth Keane and board chair Guy Lipa to the stage for a very special presentation.
Well, good evening, everyone. It was a little bit concerning to me when I heard an introduction as the moment we all dread. I thought that was before my presentation. But fortunately, I think not. It's a pleasure to join you this evening in celebrating the 14th Annual Gala for the Holocaust Museum LA. Let's give them a big hand. Tonight, I have the distinct honor of recognizing the museum and the incredible work they do in our city by helping to eradicate hatred and bigotry and anti-Semitism. Holocaust Museum LA continues its mission to commemorate those who have perished, honor those who survived, educate about the Holocaust, and inspire a more dignified and humane world. It's been a pillar in our community, educating thousands of visitors about the Holocaust and challenging everyone to confront prejudice and discrimination wherever they may encounter it. It's significant, as you know, that this is the first survivor-founded and oldest Holocaust museum in the United States. Yet sadly, even in these modern times, we are once again experiencing a sharp rise in hate crimes. Many of those have taken place, unfortunately, in my district, both targeted against Jewish institutions, even billboards for Jewish-owned companies, folks being attacked as outdoor diners, even on the streets. But the Holocaust Museum LA's role serves as a crucial beacon of hope and advocacy for change through interactive exhibits and special events and programming for youth and adults. And as the son of a Holocaust survivor and having lost family members in the Holocaust, as many of you have, I'm especially proud of the mission and impact of the museum in our community and beyond. And as a council member of the 5th Council District, where the museum is located, my partnership with Holocaust Museum LA has been a joy and a privilege. And now, after 13 years, my time as a council member is coming to a close. And so before it ends, I wanted to express my gratitude and support for your programs to memorialize the atrocities of the Holocaust and to continue to promote positive change, striving forward with compassion and dignity for all. And therefore, it's with great appreciation for your incredible work towards fighting prejudice and discrimination that I'd like to present the Holocaust Museum with $50,000 from my office discretionary funds. We all have the responsibility of educating about the continued relevance of the Holocaust and empowering the next generations to stand up and speak out against hate. I congratulate Holocaust Museum LA, and I wish you success in all your work in making Los Angeles and the world better places to live and learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Koretz, for your generous support. I am honored to work alongside a dedicated board and amazing staff to lead the museum during this exciting period of growth. Since opening our permanent home in Pan Pacific Park in 2010, we have welcomed more than 500,000 visitors, but space is at capacity, particularly during school hours. To meet the need and demand for Holocaust education, we launched our Building Truth expansion plan to double the museum's footprint, accommodating more students and visitors, special exhibits, and public programs. The new Jonah Goldrich campus will allow us to keep survivor voices alive, amplify our reach and impact, and increase our visibility. We will break ground in the coming months, thanks in large part to lead donors, including Andrea Caton and Melinda Goldrich, the State of California, the Smith Foundation, S. Mark Taper Foundation, Stanley and Joyce Black Family Foundation, David and Sheryl Wiener, and many others in the audience here tonight. Yes, a round of applause. In the first full year of operation, the museum will immediately triple our current capacity to 150,000 visitors, including 60,000 students. By 2030, we expect to welcome 500,000 visitors annually. The new campus will feature a pavilion built on top of our existing museum space to house our largest artifact, an authentic Nazi-era boxcar. Please turn your attention.
My first time in the boxcar, it's so powerful, and you realize it's so small, and how many people were shoved in there, that I think I even have the chills talking about it now, that when you walk in there, it's powerful, you know, especially kids that don't think it ever happened. This was the first place we wanted to put the boxcar, and it just all kind of worked out like it was meant to be. And this was where it should be. We learned about the museum through Jonah Goldrich, who was a very close friend of my dad, Stanley Black. This was a passion of my father's, and he wanted children, and especially non-Jewish children, to see what happened and that it would not be forgotten, because he knew that the Holocaust survivors were not going to be here. So many of his friends were survivors, and it really affected him. And growing up, his family always gave to Israel and the Jewish community, and that he didn't want that to be forgotten. We're going to be able to see the boxcar from Beverly Boulevard when people drive by, and it wakes you up. You know, it's the kind of thing like the monuments in DC. Like, you have to stop, and you have to say, what is that? To myself, my family, our foundation, I think it really represents the truth and what happened, and you can't make that up. So many people try to deny it. I think with the stories, with the boxcar, and we're hoping that many kids, especially from LAUSD, will come and see with the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of racism. And I just wish other, people in my generation and my kids' generation, and now hopefully my grandchildren, one day that it'll be something that's part of them, and we don't want that to go away. And having this museum, God willing, though, it won't be forgotten.
The boxcar exhibit will be a powerful reminder of Holocaust history. One of the survivors highlighted in the new boxcar exhibit is our next honoree, David Wiener. David was born in Poland in 1926, the second youngest of 9 children. In 1939, he fled his hometown and was sent to several labor camps before ultimately being transported to Auschwitz. In 1944, David escaped a death march and was saved by American soldiers just weeks before the war ended. Soon after, he was reunited with his oldest brother, Yankel, and they were the only 2 members of their family who survived. Lucky for us, David is here with us tonight, together with his wife, Sheryl. Sheryl and David are longtime generous donors to the Holocaust Museum LA and members of the board of directors. And now, David and Sheryl Wiener.
My father was a Hasidic Jew. My mother was a wonderful person. She's an angel. The war started in 1939, September 1st. The German bastards came in to Lichtenbergstadt and destroyed the whole city. But they get out of that. We were 8 brothers, 1 sister. And the 8 brothers and sisters only 2 survived. Me and my oldest brother, Yankel. I escaped from the ghetto. With the blessing of my mother took me to the hallway. She said to me, David, Dufche. Don't forget who you are or what you are. God will guide you. I love you. I love you. This I left my home when I was 13 years old. So when I sleep outside the street, you sleep on the street, what, nothing to eat, I was sworn from hunger. Germany needed some people to work on the railroad, laying the shins.
The tracks.
Yeah. So it was winter, cold, freezing. So the German needed help unload railroads with coal, 20 tons, 30 tons. They sent the young kids like my age, I was at the time 15 years old, something give and take, 15 years old. We'd unload 20 tons of coal in 20 minutes. 20 minutes! In the Berkshire ghetto, I was an animal, slept on the floor, frozen. Slept body to bodies. In the morning, the guy comes up with a 2-wheel, picking up dead bodies, put them like a garbage can. And I was one of them. I've seen it. My hand still, you can see it's swollen from the hunger this year. Now, how can you tell that to anybody? Then the condition we get up again. So it was 2 lines. The left lane, the right lane. And I was on the left lane. So you see the Gestapo top guy, bastard. So come raus. Took me out of the lane. The left lane went to the blinker. Nobody survived there. He took me out of there because he knew who I am. I worked for them. I see my cousins in the left lane, Avram Gilbert, his mother. So they stopped us. I said, Herr Oberführer, schau mal bitte, I have a paper from you. My cousins, I like them on my side. So, ja, ganz so schnell, ja, komm raus. So he went out. He couldn't take his wife or baby. He never talked to me because I saved his life. I couldn't save his wife's life. Just think about it. He didn't talk to me after the war, didn't talk to me. God saved his life, he didn't want to live. I escaped with Avram. As we're running, this guy stopped, hold, so we laid down. He says, please shoot me in my brains. I said, I don't want to live. He didn't listen to me, he never listened to me. So one guy says to another guy, let's shoot him. One guy, in German, said, don't shoot him. The bullet's too expensive for him. Think about it, the bullet too expensive for fucking life. So they shot me. They took us out to the jail, just over to Teresa. You're 3 days in jail. The third day, they take you out on a truck to your left, the cemetery, they shoot you down. Go to right, you go to Auschwitz. Okay? I can say it now. No one said that before. God to me doesn't exist. What was God? Children being killed in crematorium at night in Auschwitz. See the sky of red, ashes on your lips. What is God? You tell me. Who is God? My future is gone. It's your future. My future is gone. I'm done. 96, if God is good to me, God listen to me, He listen to me. If I live another 5 years, I'll be lucky.
As someone who grew up in the 60s and was really active in social justice, I am a little terrified with what's going on. You can make comparisons that the disinformation and propaganda that was happening when he was in a concentration camp, that disinformation did not happen at the speed of light that it's happening now. How can we take the lessons of the Holocaust and apply them to what's going on today? And education is huge. We do need people of higher consciousness to teach us that we're all connected.
What I'm doing now is not enjoyable. It's painful to me. But you know it, your kids will know it. I'm doing that just for me. They will don't forget me. Please don't forget me. That's what I'm asking for it. I'm asking for any producer, just think, don't forget me, because it can't happen again.
Well, first of all, a belated welcome to our home, our Temple of the Arts, which owns this beautiful Saban Theatre, and it was a great honor for us to make it available for the Holocaust Museum LA. It's one of the great institutions that's going to grow in prestige nationally and globally, and we're very honored to welcome all of you here tonight. For me, it's a special honor because right here in this very place, our temple owns this beautiful facility, we held our Yom Kippur, and we honored David Wiener because he is such a remarkable man, such a remarkable human being. He created, from his loss and his pain, a beautiful family, Helene and John, Michael and Michelle, and grandchildren, Melanie, Matthew, Shane, and Sydney, the next generation of hopefulness and of a future. So that's the resilience of the Jewish people. And Elie Wiesel once said it so well. I marvel at the resilience of the Jewish people, he said. Their best characteristic is their desire to remember. No other people has such an obsession with memory. Memory is what we're all about, keeping and preserving the memories. And when we have a living survivor to give us his personal testimony, there can be nothing more powerful. As David and Cheryl's rabbi and friend, It's very special to me because David's Yiddish name is Duvidel, and that's my Yiddish name. And so we would call each other Duvidel lovingly. And half the time I would call him to talk about something, he'd always be humming a melody and singing a song. And that's just the joy of life, because he recognizes, probably more than all of us, the preciousness of human life and how we all have a commitment and responsibility to make something of our lives and to reach to others, to unite them, opposing hatred, bigotry, and anti-Semitism. Again, Elie Wiesel said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference, and we dare not be indifferent. It was great to see our governor speak about Holocaust education and what he's going to be doing, and we commend him. But we urge him to also remember that the education curriculum of the state of California must not be allowed to vilify the state of Israel. And we urge our governor to take note of that and to make sure that the hatred of the Jewish state, which easily morphs into the hatred of the Jewish people, is never tolerated in our public school system. I'm really honored to stand here today and present this award to David and Sheryl Wiener. They are remarkable people. David's story you heard, Sheryl at his side, giving him encouragement and urging him to continue to do everything they do philanthropically throughout the community. I also marvel at David's ability to reach across to other people of other faiths, of other ethnicities, and how his warmth and his personality attracts them. That's one of the great teaching moments as well of Holocaust remembrance. And so today, it's my great honor to make this presentation to them. Where are they? David and Sheryl Wiener, the visionary Jonah Goldrich Visionary Award presented to them at this time. Let's give them a nice warm round of applause.
David, das ist für dir und für dein Wein. First of all, I want to thank all of you being here. And especially I want to thank my daughter, my son, kids here. They're part of my life. They give me hope to live, purpose of living. They were my kids. To you, don't forget us. Could happen again. Prevent it. Prevention is number one. Thank you again for coming. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Hi. So I just wanted to thank Beth and our board of directors for your powerful leadership for Holocaust Museum LA. I just want to say a few words about my husband. He's the strongest, most generous, and courageous man I have ever known. His acts of bravery during the war are legendary. He has saved so many lives. I believe that the other quality that got him through the Holocaust was love, the love and respect he had for his family, and the hope that he would see his mother smile again. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but her smile can be seen through his children, Michael and Helene, and his grandchildren who are here tonight. So I just want to thank you.
We are heading towards the end of the evening. So congratulations again to our honorees, Kelly Goldberg, Tom Teicholz, and David and Sheryl Wiener. Congratulations also to Mike Medavoy, Eric Esrailian, and Terry George for receiving the Social Impact Storytelling Award. Sorry. It's been a really inspiring evening. And we're here and we celebrate the work of Holocaust Museum LA. And it's been a long time since we've all been able to actually be at an event in a room together. And, you know, the world we're living in is fairly horrific. And anti-Semitism is just one of the many things that has gone crazy in the world. We have violence, we have anger, we have a country that can't get along, we have a world that can't get along. The fact that right here in Los Angeles, we have a museum that educates, using the Holocaust as a jumping off point to teach everyone, and especially the next generation, about that hate doesn't work. It doesn't move the needle, it doesn't make it doesn't allow us to evolve. And for all of you who have children here and grandchildren, I know that my son is terribly lacking, luckily, in understanding anti-Semitism, because he really hasn't experienced it, because he lives in a very safe community. It is endlessly important to help the museum continue the amazing work it's doing in education. If you have not given tonight, I ask you so, so deeply to text, to give, to bring people to the museum, and honor this amazing, amazing institution. Most importantly, there is dessert and coffee waiting outside or in your kitchen if you're working from home. Thank you all. Good night.